my job is to go in and to clean up businesses and to really make them work healthy, functional, so that they can operate properly. I'm a consultant, right? I got to figure out revenue. So I shifted my mindset in the sense of, me not get money in London for the same can salon. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I need to make money on the ground. Business is something that's supposed to be functional, that does a specific job for a specific group of people. That's what a business is. Your business has to offer a solution beyond the survival of just, I gotta survive. What is the problem that you're solving? What is the solution that you are able to offer? Businesses are what create jobs. Business is not so because you don't go to school and that make you go end up on business. We've got to get rid of all of those mindsets, right? Business are tools for economic activities. They help. You need them within your environment. You need them within your private sector. So get rid of all those things. Why? Because Alexa, if I don't go to school, and they go hire the one we go to school for can run the business for me. So my dear, having the education is one thing. It's what you choose to do with the education.
This is the JB Show, and it's your life by design.
What if building a business was likened to you building a relationship? You're putting everything you have into this relationship, but your partner is just not loving you back. My guest on the show today says this is kind of like the relationship a lot of entrepreneurs have with their businesses. They're putting everything they have into the business. The business is not loving them back. Why is that so? Let me start with a simple question. How do you describe yourself these days?
Well, hello. My name is Mahawa Kamara. I am the founder and the lead consultant at Connoisseur Consult. I am essentially an operations and systems strategist. So my job is to go in and to clean up businesses and to really make them work healthy, functional, so that they can operate properly.
And what gives you the audacity to believe that you can do that?
Oh, well, that's a good. Well, I've got 13 years of doing business, going down this journey of entrepreneurship, building my first business, losses. So I would say like I've got the scars, to go down that journey. So I have done the work, essentially. So I've been an entrepreneur for 13 years now. I'm really excited about that. I built my first business, which was a skincare business, and then did other things from that. And then obviously eventually have now gone on to start building Connoisseur Consult Sierra Leone. So I've been doing this for a while.
And the story begins here in Sierra Leone, Moridin. What year were you? What year? Moridin Primary School. What year were you in Moridin School?
God, so unfortunately, I don't know what it is. Everything before, I don't want to say pre the war, it's like one bubble in my head. I don't know if that makes sense. So we probably moved when the war, around like 7, 8, was still in Sierra Leone until it got really bad and then we had to leave.
Okay, yeah. You went to London. Take us through the journey. What happened then?
I actually didn't go to London first. I went through the channels everybody went through. Guinea. Then I ended up in the States first for about 5, 6 years. And then I moved to London because that's where my mom was living. So I then really started my teenage years in the UK. And it was just, a teenager, the trying to figure out, who you are in the UK. I grew up with a single parent in London. My mom is a nursing specialist and she's built her career in that field. And I went on to do my A-levels. I did social work as my first degree. So I'm a qualified social worker. And that's really where my journey started after I qualified. And I was really figuring out, okay, what do I do next? Do I go full-time into social work or do I figure out this thing? Also, what had happened during that time was we had the riots. I don't know if anybody remember the London riots. If you're not ever see them in the news here in Sierra Leone, there's the London riots where a lot of people really got angry because a young black male had gotten killed. And so at that time, the government brought in a lot of entrepreneurship initiatives and things just to engage young people. Mm-hmm. So there were a lot of programs around as well that I was able to tap into in terms of actually getting started on the journey of becoming an entrepreneur. But I was on job support. I don't know if you know what job seekers is, but meaning you're unemployed. You're on the unemployment line, you go claim benefits. And I'd found this product, which was my own product that I developed, which was the soap at the time whilst I was on maternity leave. And I remember saying to my advisor, I think I've got a product and I think I've got something that I can actually do. Because in my mind at the time, and I still stand by this, everybody needs to bath. Like, that was just my logic. Everybody needs to bath. And so why not start a soap making company? Duh. And I figured out how you make soap, and I got into the world of organic skincare, cosmetics, and then the business of cosmetics and the business of beauty eventually, and really love that sector. It's one of my favorite sectors to work in. But as I was doing that, what was happening was my other skills, so my business development skills, my operational skills, were also developing at the same time. So I was always doing, like, consulting on the side. Let me help you with your idea. There's been so many variations of this thing, and finally figuring out that actually, no, I really want to do consulting, and I think I'm actually a really good consultant at what I do. The change came because it was a change. I was actually dating somebody, and I remember he said, "You're not a consultant because you haven't built like your business big." And I was like, "What?" Obviously, safe to say I broke up with him. That relationship didn't continue.
not because he said that.
It was because he said that.
Okay.
Because to me, that was me in year 2, right? So this was me my second year. So then I knew you couldn't see me in year 10. So there's no way I can continue that journey with you. So I did end the relationship. Actually, it was one of the reasons why I did end the relationship. Because I knew I was a consultant, but I couldn't figure out what exactly it was that I had at the time. But I just knew there was something there, and so I left that relationship and carried on the journey of doing smaller consulting. Like, at first when you're freelancer, you call it Mahawa Kamara consultancy, or you do like smaller strategy sessions and things like that. But I was firmly focused on building Soap Connoisseur, which was my soap making and body care business. At the time, and I really was looking at how could I manufacture, especially within Africa, or how could I get cheaper labor costs, because obviously manufacturing in the UK is expensive, and I wanted to know how could I grow the business. The UK has used to be called I think it's called Business and Trade now. They have this department called Business and Trade that essentially helps you to access international markets, or wherever they have a presence, you can access that market. And I spoke to a trade advisor. She says, "Where do you want to go?" And I said, "I want to go to Ghana." And she was like, "Why?" I was like, "I don't know. My spirit just tells me let's go to Ghana. I think there's something in Ghana and their beauty market." And it was, because at that time their beauty market was really exploding. They were building a lot of structures around their beauty market. The government had gotten involved in the business of cosmetics to really understand it as a business, not just, na makeup, then kind of thing. And so I was able to connect with a few people out there. But I really I went to Accra. I went a few times, did a few events, just to lay the groundwork. And then eventually at the end of 2019, I was like, I'm moving to Ghana. And obviously my family was like, "You don't get man?" "You don't get man there?" And I was like, no, I actually don't. And I just want to go to Ghana. And also I wanted to go to Ghana. I also wanted to try, because I knew as Africans, we're not encouraged to live in other African countries. And I wanted to try living in another African country as a West African or as an ECOWAS person. And so I went on that. And I decided to move to Accra.
You said you stayed in Accra for 3 years.
Yeah, two and a half
If I
years.
pause there and let's come back to the UK.
Yeah.
On the research work we did on you, you said there was actually a connection between your first daughter, Adana.
Yes.
Adana.
Yes.
And the soap making stuff. Can you play us back?
All right, so I'll go back. So at the time I had my daughter. I was like 24 actually when I had my daughter. And then I'd gone into social work. Then I was a supervising social worker. I was working in foster care, like fostering and residential care. With children in that type of environment. So we were actually in Birmingham at the time, me and my ex-husband now. And she had like dry skin, like just normal dry skin we're picking to get. But you're using the normal Johnson & Johnson, the market, the sort of shelf, waiting in at the shelf is what you're using. But I found out it wasn't working. I was also at a point where I was like, I'm 24, I'm doing the social work thing. Do I really want to be a social worker? I don't know. So it's kind of figuring out what is it you want to do. And I always say, it was one night I was on exploring Google and I saw soap making at the bottom, and I was like, how do you make soap? And I just clicked it. And I'll never, for 13th of October 2013. Never forget the date because it's just stuck in my head. And I just clicked soap making and I went down this rabbit hole and I was so fascinated. I was like, how do you make soap? I bought my first soap making kit, made the soap. It takes 4 weeks to actually become real soap, so that's the special thing about
it. Takes 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's not
like Africana soap. You know, say I mean, we have something called Africana soap, and people do it in 24 hours. You have a soap manufacturing company with
organic soaps that take 4 weeks to cure, to process, to get the water out of them naturally. And so I went through that process, and I remember I bathed with it, and it was just a light bulb, and I was like, I've got a product. I don't know how I'm going to figure it out, but I have a product.
Let's talk about the competitions you took part in, because I think it was very early days.
Yeah.
You actually took part in a competition. Hustle, was it called?
Yeah, Hustle in Hills. So there was Hustle in Hills. They had a pitching event that I took part in. I didn't win the pitching event, but actually that pitching event allowed me to meet. So I always say pitch, regardless whether you win. It doesn't even matter whether you win or not, really. But I didn't win. I don't think I even got through. But there was somebody from Leone Council in the audience who saw what I was talking about. And that actually got me my first public sector contract, because I ended up providing business support specifically for beauty brands within the area. And they wanted the information on what beauty businesses were providing to the local economy, because they actually do provide a lot to the local economy. And so I ended up getting that contract to be able to deliver business support to those businesses within Lewisham Borough and things like that. And then that got me another contract for Goldsmith. And then I ended up doing like mentoring support, where they had this this business and resilience program, again through Goldsmith University. They were delivering it. So yes, I didn't win the pitch, but I won 2 contracts out of not winning the pitch.
And you kept pushing, struggling between am I a social worker or am I an entrepreneur? And it's interesting that we were, in some discussion. So that pushed you all the way to Accra.
Yeah, I was with social work. So with social work, I quickly figured out I wasn't going to do the social work thing, much to my mother's dismay, and I think maybe still to this day, like, I don't know if she still
doesn't know where you're up to, because she's still trying to figure out.
And so, but what I did was I used my social work as the asset that it was. And what do I mean, right? I was able to still build my business. I had to work night shifts because those were the, do assessment work on the side and all that. You still need an income coming in. So what I remember saying this to my friend, my degree was my asset. And what does an asset do? An asset is supposed to be able to give you money. So I planned it in a way where I was working night shifts. Yeah, so that allowed me to also work on my business at night. And then I had the day because I had a young child as well. And I knew going into full-time employment in that way, it wasn't feasible. The UK system is very different. Childcare is very expensive. So I had to really figure out as well. So I still use my social work and I still use it till this day. But it's what you call a fallback, right? But I really use my social work in terms of I got jobs, I signed up with agencies, doing night shifts then, like I did those you do what you have to do, like I did those things as well. You also have to feed the business at that time because it's a new business and you're making a lot of mistakes, you're figuring it out. So it's an asset. My degree is an asset, and I use it as, like, I really have that mentality of what does an asset do? An asset gives you something back at some point. So
let's go to Accra. What did you actually, spend your time doing in Accra?
Good question. Accra was an interesting space. I ended up researching, going really into the market.
And you will still know what year was that, right?
Yeah, Accra was end of 2019, going into 2020. I spent in Accra. COVID came. So what COVID allowed me to do was actually understand the local market and the local environment, because things had slowed down because of the lockdowns and what was happening and all that stuff. So it helped me to really understand the local market. And the question I was trying to figure out is, could I manufacture here? Because I was looking at, was it possible to manufacture my products in Accra so that I can then export? So it was almost like I manufacture here and then I export it back into the UK market, and with the support of
So that's what you were going to do in Accra?
Yes.
That's okay.
Yeah, that was the plan. Fortunately, COVID came. After I'd shipped everything in, COVID came. We lost a lot of money, but at the same time, I had left stock in the UK through a partnership that I'd built. So that partnership really was it was a big revenue driver, because all of a sudden I remember Janet calling me. I was like, people want your soaps. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, I don't know. People want your soaps. How do I get them? And luckily I'd left a sizable amount of products, and that really brought revenue in. And again, that was the first time I really saw, oh, my business is making money and I'm not there. And I'm just getting the revenue coming in. And things like that. So I think we made first week we made like £1,000, and I was like, okay, all right, let's see, and things like that. Well, obviously because of production and just what was going on with the changes with Brexit happening, how you source raw materials, ingredients, all of those changes were happening. I was still really sitting on the fence and things like that. And then going deeper into the Ghanaian market as well, and being non-Ghanaian, you realize it's not as straightforward to set up a business in a foreign country when you are not the national of that country. And so after a few years, the 3 years, I knew it was time to exit.
When you left Sierra Leone for the UK, when was the first time you came back?
No, I came out when I left Sierra Leone. The first time I came out when I left, I was 14, 15. My mom sent me back. She said I was a naughty child, and not naughty, but they're thinking if I'm gonna come back. So I came back for a year. Yeah, and I remember I really loved it. I came back for a year. I went to Apex. I don't know if that school is still around, but I did. Yeah, I went to
King Tom, somewhere.
Yeah, inside King Tom, exactly. I went there. I did that for a year, and then after that, I left just before GCSEs, because you needed to be in to do your GCSEs if you wanted to go on to do your A-levels properly. So I was like, come back, can't do GCSE, you've learnt your lesson.
Okay, so that was a testing. That was a testing
yeah,
exam.
Yeah.
Now, so in the entrepreneurship journey, when did you first come back to Sierra Leone?
2023. It was actually 2023, which was a shame. No, before that I came 2009, and then I left again, and then I came back 2023 since that time. So it's about 14 years before I came back. And I remember coming back and I said, oh, never again, don't stay away this long, actually, because there's a lot of stuff going on that you need to tap into and things like that. So it was 2023, I came back. I was still on more of the beauty market, what Sierra Leone's beauty market saying. I was looking at the numbers, I was looking at the research. Is there any research available around the beauty market? I did some articles about it as well. It's at the time it was like a $500 million market. That was what it was costed in terms of what you could get, not the informal stuff and stuff. And I was
actually talking about Sierra Leone.
Yes, Sierra Leone specifically. And I was very focused on doing a vocational school. Okay, I want to open like a cosmetology school to really train, because I knew our girls were going to like Ghana and Nigeria to train for cosmetology. So could we have like a really, standard cosmetology school in Sierra Leone and things like that? Because I believe in the beauty market. I know the worth of the beauty market. It's a recession-proof market. It's what you call the lipstick economy, right? Regardless of what is going on, you have to use a beauty product along the line somewhere. So I understand the business of beauty and things like that. So I was still looking at that, and then I went back to London again, and then at the end of 2024, I was like, I'm coming back. I was like, what are you doing this? And I was like, I need for this salon January 2025. And it was like, and I always say this, I landed because I'd spent out because I had to go through Ghana to sort out things, and then to like close up the Ghana chapter properly. And then I was like, I need to be in Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is the next chapter, and this is what God has said, and we're going. And I remember I always say I landed in Sierra Leone on the 17th of January with £17 in my account at the time, because I was just maxed out, done, yeah. And I had to call my aunt and say, you need to send me coach money, because I don't know how I'm going to cross.
You didn't have money to cross.
Literally, I didn't have money to cross across from Lunga to Freetown. So I call my aunt, sends me money, I cross over, and I knew, I was like, okay, once I'm here, I got my head down, and obviously within 2-3 days, the money kind of opens back up, and you're like, all right, thank you, Lord, okay, I'm here now. And then I knew that, okay, and it was just at that time, something just clicked. I don't know, that 10-12 year journey just clicked. And I was like, okay, what do you want me to do here in Sierra Leone? And slowly things started opening up. I ended up encountering somebody who led me to what it was a World Bank project at the time around the PSSNYE, the Productive Social Safety Nets project. And that was a real insight into, okay, what was happening on the ground. I would go to Bo, to Kenema, so really see the country and like just the beauty of the country. So Leone is beautiful. It's like a movie when you really drive up. And I was like, and I'm just like, what is going on with this place? Why are we not seeing the economic development that we need to? At the same time I was doing the project, I also realized, like, I'm a consultant, right? I got to figure out revenue. So I shifted my mindset in a sense of, me don't get money in London for the same can salon. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I need to make money on the ground, whether that's 2,000 leones, whether that's, like whatever it is, I need to make money on the ground, because what you spend on the ground is leones. So how can I make that money? So that was my shift, to the point where it then started happening. I was then able to change money to send back to the UK. And I was like, there's money.
There's money here.
There's money.
There's money here.
There's money here. So that was my mindset. So I did that project, ended it, and sort of did my time on that project and left that. But at the same time, I'd built up relationships and really built up the understanding of, I think there's a need for consultancy, but what type of consultancy services was here. And then I slowly started establishing Connoisseur Consult, but also supporting businesses. And what was coming out as I was talking to the different businesses or just appealing to different people was operational support. The operations is not there. People will invest in their businesses, but it's not really happening. And then I got an opportunity to step in as an interim managing director for a company. He'd invested a substantial amount of money into the business, but it was really shaky. And that was like my first proper go of stabilizing a business through operational support, systems building, and also getting the business to understand what it does, right? So you are not a record studio. You are actually a rental company that does X, Y, and Z, and that clear positioning, and testing that out and transforming that business until I stepped away from it, and just testing it out, just trying it with different businesses as I was going along. I've worked with a manufacturing company, they make teas. So we started off just with local businesses that trusted us, that trusted me, and we tell me they talk for, say, you need operational support. How can we help you? This is what I do. You had to take the underpaying, because say really you price now 40,000, but you get for take that 15,000, because you also need to test the market and what you're saying. And so it started from one business, another, like different. So I've got a case now. I have a case study of businesses that I can say I went in. This is where the business was at. This is what my intervention was, and this is the result of those businesses. And you also track them.
And you have. Would you be able to share an example, a specific example? You don't have to name the business,
okay,
but to walk us through
sure,
what a typical intervention that you carried out looks like.
Yeah, one of my favorite businesses, and he's still one of my favorite people to work with, is a car dealership. So we always say we took him from being a dealer to a car dealership, right? Favorite business. In business was very cash heavy.
What's the difference between you say a car dealer to a car dealership? He
was a dealer to a car dealership. So now a dealership. Think about it.
So what's the difference? What's the difference between a dealer? So tell me what's the difference.
Dealer, not just buy and sell. Okay. Right?
So dealership
is a business. Whether I'm there or not, I'm not there. My business functions because I'm able to open a second branch, and that was what we were able to get him to do. So he turned him from just being that dealer. Hey, yes, come buy the motor car. Yes, now 10,000. Okay, don't send the money. To actually having an inventory where he could go and check what are the quantities of cars in my car. When a car comes in, what needs to happen from where the motor car they land. Now we lot say the client comes and picks it up, or we go and drop it up, right? So what are the SOPs? What do you need to make sure every car has? What are the documentations? And really breaking down that system for him, so that he has a car dealership, because then he's now able to replicate that model regardless of Usaiwa opening another shop. So we took him from a dealer to a car dealership.
You have the story you're telling about Adama. This is Mami Adama.
We call him Madam Adama for an anonymous.
And that's just a persona. That's a
persona. That was a persona, because waiting happened was, and as you like, especially business support is a very tricky thing to sell. especially it's tricky anywhere, even in the UK.
A big question I've asked you, of course, is who pays for consulting services in Sierra? That's the first question. And I'm going to keep asking you that question all the way.
But local businesses, people who need it, pay for it. I can definitely determine that. But what be happening was, Madam Adamana, she's a figurative, but we have a lot of Madam Adamas, and she's the classic customer. You get 2-3 shop with them. You able go China. She may not be well read. She may even be illiterate, but Isabi do business in that sense of the raw. She knows how to do business, but she doesn't have the systems and the structure that allow her to scale and really grow her business. And that was what we saw with Madam Madam get 4 shop with it. And they go China, but Madam will tell you the stock they with inside business. To the point where her staff revolts against her because she's not paying salaries properly. All those things happening. So she had no systems, no stock card, no inventory. And we said, Madam Adama, let's fix your shops for you so that you have your inventory in check. So that when you come out China, you know exactly waiting day, waiting all day. So that you have stock card units, meaning every time a stock goes out, it's recorded, it's calculated for. Also, let's teach you discipline so that you don't call the shop and say, send me 10,000, send me 5,000, but actually pay yourself a salary through your business. Right? So let the business pay you a salary. And so some founders don't even understand that, my business should be paying me
and so salary. Actually, you should have an account in the name of the business.
Of course.
And your account, personal account, should be completely separate from the business.
First rule of business, never mix. It's a separate entity by itself. It's almost like a person. It's a legal entity by itself. It exists with its own liabilities, all your own problem them. So you do not ever mix your personal and your business finance, which is a very difficult.
But I own the business, so how would you be telling me to separate, what my financial dealings from that of the business? I own the business. Somebody's asking you that question. What's your response? Why does it make sense? Why do I have to?
Why do you have to? Mm-hmm. Because it's an entity. It's a legal entity. Once you've registered your business or you start trading, it becomes a legal entity. Yes, you own
But you own it. You own it.
You own it, but you don't own it. If you know what I mean. So you own it.
Keep going.
Yes. So yes, I own my business, but I don't own my business because ultimately, what is a business, right? A business is something that's supposed to be functional, that does a specific job for a specific group of people. That's what a business is. So if it's something that does that and I've defined it as that, then I recognize that it has to be separate from me. It cannot be me and the business. It's an operate. You know what I'm saying? It's got to be something that's separate, that operates with its own thing. And that's why you have it as a legal entity. That's why you are encouraged to register your business. That's why there's a difference between a limited company and sole proprietorship. Yeah, because of liability issue. Because also you have to remember, you are now dealing with value. I'm giving you money. Somebody's giving you money for something. Do you really want those liabilities on your head? No, I don't want.
You gotta want it to be with the business, and you've been separated from the business.
Separated from
okay, that's super technical, obviously.
Yeah,
for the kind of people we're talking to, but there are a couple of obviously Sierra that this makes sense to.
Yeah.
And you came back to, again, you'd have to have been in the UK and back, and been in the UK and back. And where you have a lot of Sierra Leoneans who wish they had the privilege to be in the UK. Why would anybody want to come back here? We still struggle with having 24-hour electricity and water. Why would you want to?
Honestly, I'm asking myself the same question every day most time. Why would I want to? Because it was time to come back home. It was time to come back home. And when it's time to come back home, I think a lot of us do. I think a lot of us don't because of fear, because of those things that you've listed. Just there's no system, not there. The infrastructure behind certain things is not there. It's difficult to leave your comfort and to come back, but it was time to come back. Again, I prayed about it, as I always do, and I knew it was time to come back. The UK was also starting to go into more of what they see now, just that division, that just the complete division. And I remember saying, like, I'm tired of being black in Britain. Like, I'm just tired. It's
You're tired of being black in Britain.
Yeah, like it's very exhausting. I think sometimes people don't get that side of living there. That it is exhausting. Yes, there's opportunities, but there's also no opportunities because of who you are. So if you think, I'm a black woman in the UK, and I realize with my level of education, my level of skills, I am 10 times able to make more money if I actually took my skills. So there's something called rare relative in the market, right? So you got to be a rare relative in the market. Yeah. So same set of skills, but I pick them up and I move it to an environment that's desperate for those skills. So I'm able to charge at a higher price or at a premium price.
You call it rare relative.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there's a spiritual dimension to your journey.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. One of the reasons I did a major shift at the very early days in my life, in my professional journey, was I wanted somewhere where, my faith could, I can be able to relate directly my faith and my professional life, have the magic. Briefly tell us, because one of the things you said, I think as we did our chat was, this it's a ministry for you. It's almost like a calling, coming back to Sierra Leone.
Yeah.
And you talked about changing the way we do business in Africa.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that.
So I'm always anchored in scripture or in God. Like, I believe in God. I am a believer. I am, unapologetic about my faith and what I believe, and also acting my faith. So not just, having faith, but also acting that faith. So I've always done things that way. And, in 2018, I knew, coming out of a rough relationship, I knew, okay, this is the next step for me. And I remember just praying, and I say I heard it in my spirit, my voice, like I wrote it down. I still have it written down, and it changed the way we do business in Africa. And I said, trying to figure out my own business. What do you mean? Change the way we do business in Africa. Like, I don't know what that means, and stuff. But I wrote it down because I just believed that this is what I heard, and I kept praying about it. And I remember saying to my friend, I'm going to start a business development agency. And she said, a what? And I was like, a business development agency. I just know that I need to start it. She's like, okay, all right, let me know how it goes. So this was 2018. I decided to go back to school to do a MSc in International Business Management so that I can just understand what business management really look like. So I did the modules with that just to really understand things like Porter's 5 Forces and all these frameworks and all these things that are out there. So I did that, and then, but at the same time, so I was doing that, but applying it to my business that I had at the time, which was Soap Connoisseur as well. So it was doing that, doing the business management degree and trying to understand, okay, what is the direction I'm going to go in. Went to Ghana for those 2-3 years, really looked at what the African market was, and I knew from January 2025 it was time to come back home. You pray about it. There's a conviction in your spirit. You got to have to be convicted about it, because the journey is not easy and it's never going to be easy, but you are so convicted about it. And because you step into it, doors naturally align and things started opening up and opportunities started coming. And then it clicked. Like I just said, there was just a click, and it just made it was like the 12 years made sense. Yeah, that 10 years, it made sense. That from 2015 to 2025 made sense in that one moment when I stepped on the right soil at the right time. So I definitely believe in that. But that's a journey you go through.
It's a journey you go through. You have 2 daughters.
I have 2 daughters.
The first one is Adana, and I asked you, what does Adana mean?
Adana means the favorite one.
The favorite one.
Yeah.
And Aliana?
Aliana means God has answered my prayers.
God has answered your prayers.
Yes.
Now, and come back to Sierra Leone.
Yes.
My guest today is Mahawa Kamara.
Yeah.
And Mahawa Kamara. And one of the things, I discovered as we spoke was you're about finishing a book.
Yes.
and at the top of the program, at top of the show, I talked about what if building business was like building a relationship.
Yeah.
You put in everything that you have into this.
Yes.
angst, frustrations, and
Everything.
everything, your
Yeah.
time. And I say to people, I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Amongst any other thing that I am, I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's a tough life.
Oh, yeah.
Creating, building, never stopping, pushing everything. And I said that, maybe the business is also like my eldest son.
Yeah, it's your baby.
It's a baby. It's my eldest son. So there's a lot that goes into business.
Yeah,
And how frustrating it is that you would be investing in a relationship and your partner is not loving you back.
Yeah.
And what you said in this book that you're writing is that that's kind of like what
You have
our
with your
entrepreneurs
Yeah.
are going through,
Yes.
like we have with our business.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
put in everything we have into this, not holding back anything, making all of the sacrifices.
100%.
But our businesses are not loving us back.
Yeah. Does your business love you back?
And so that's the title of the book. Does your business love you back? And so, but your business is not loving you back. The 6 love languages of entrepreneurship and how speaking the right one changes everything.
Yes. Because it happened to me, and it was, again, everything, it's all from the experience of being an entrepreneur and actually being in the trenches. You got to be in the trenches, guys. You got to go all in. So firstly, it is difficult. I always say, so I have a rule of thumb sometimes. I don't work with businesses under 2 years old. So it depends on the situation, but I generally don't, because I believe in something called the 2-year glitch. Yeah, you got to go through 2 years of your life being made a total mess because you chose to do these things, because it will be made a total mess. Your husband might leave you, your children are going to act out, everybody's going to question you, you're going to lose your money, you're going to go crazy. But if you can stick to this
but I would imagine that's the best time they need intervention, you need help. Why don't you work with businesses that are under 2 years?
Because then after that 2 years, there's a mindset that changes. I really want this thing.
That's when you would know that they really want it. So they either go back and give up and throw up their hands.
That's it for me. Or the ones that really pursue. And then you kind of know the next step is then 5 years, because that's how you kind of judge those stuff. But yeah, does your business love you back? It happened to me. I put everything into my businesses, and I always say it actually kind of came from a real heartbreak, because I was talking to somebody I really liked, and actually it just wasn't, we weren't speaking the same language, and I was like, what is going on? And I was thinking, this is what happens with, and it just the click.
This is what's happening with my business. My business is not loving me back.
And I was like, oh no. And I was like, what did it say? Imagine if, and I was like, yeah, because I speak a love language to my business, actually, as a founder. I'm in a relationship with my business, and it's been actually quite an abusive relationship, and it's been a very frustrating relationship, because I'm giving this business my time, my money, my effort. I don't go out on dinner dates. I don't do, and it's like it does take over your life. Let's not be honest. If you really want to be a founder, and I think we have to be really honest about what it does take to build a business, and if you are ambitious enough to want to build a business, it's weekends, it's a lot of things that go into it, and you give all of that time. I drag my children to workshops, to trade shows. Like, my kids will tell you, they go everywhere I go. Like, that's not I don't see that as an obstacle.
One of them was out there just now.
Yeah, like nothing, like, let's go.
We had to ship her out somewhere.
Yeah. So that is not a factor to me in terms of, because I know I want to build my business. So I'm giving everything to this business, and it's not giving me back what I need, whether that's in terms of revenue, whether that's in terms of peace, just peace of mind and the systems working, whether that's because I didn't need to be present all the time in the business and things like that. And I realized, actually, I'm speaking the wrong language to my business. What do I mean? My business needed systems and operations. Yeah, it needed to have a system that worked, that was going to be repeatable, So I needed to take what was in my head and document it and put it on paper and really create the systems and the operational structure around it. And once I did start doing that, I can say I have seen the difference, even with our hiring process. This is probably one of the best hiring processes I've ever done, because I really tested out the system to really get the best person for the job. And thank God he has proved, kind of his worth in weight and gold. But that's because the system is there. Yeah. So even when we had a field worker who didn't work out, because the system was there, it was able to drop somebody, right into it, and just kind of give her the manuals, give her the scripts to read, give her the things that she needed. for her to be able to go out and do the job itself. So that was my experience. Obviously I'm a systems person, as you can tell, and I think a lot of people run away from systems. I don't know why, but I don't know why, but it's not just systems. So there's 6 love languages. So as I was going through that,
we'll come back to the love languages. We want to take this break. We want to take this commercial break, but this has been stuff. Mahawa said a business can break your heart. A business can break your heart, just like a relationship, somebody you love and somebody you've invested a lot in this relationship, but it's just not working and it breaks your heart. Mahawa said that's what kind of like the journey we go through as entrepreneurs, but it says it's because of the language we speak. There's a book by Guy Chapman, and it's 5 love languages, the way people react or how we respond to being loved. And unless you're using those languages with your partner, you may not get the best out of the relationship. And she's saying maybe that's kind of like what's happening to us as entrepreneurs. When we come back, we will dive into the 6 love languages and find out why your business is not loving you back.
This is the JB Show, and it's your life by design.
Most business owners then just they guess waiting at the problem where them business get. Some can say, well, na marketing problem, but in staff then say no, na the sales now we have problem with, and the partner then at the business say no, na cash flow problem now then get. Everybody they guess, nobody know waiting they do the business. That is why we built one simple tool at the Startup Body Shop. You answer a few questions and the system analyzes your business and it shows you exactly what's the problem. Not vibes, not guessing, real business diagnostics. Because if you treat the wrong problem, you're just wasting your time, you're wasting money, and you're wasting energy. This tool shows you exactly what's blocking your business, what to fix first, and where to focus on if you want to see results. So stop guessing, diagnose your business today. Check the link in the description.
This is the JB Show, and it's your life by design.
Welcome back. My guest today on the show on the JB podcast is Mahawa Kamara. And we've been, before the break, we talked about the book Mahawa is writing. But it's not just a book.
No.
It represents a big chunk of the thesis of, how she was able to boil down 12, 13 years journey of having to try to build things for herself, but more so working with other people to help build their businesses so that they could make sense out of the business. And he says, business could be, like building a business could be like building a relationship. You could love somebody, you could put everything into it, but not getting back what you're supposed to be getting. And you don't get loved back. And so she says, does your business love you back?
Yes.
That's the question. 6 love languages of entrepreneurship and how speaking the right one changes everything. You said this came out of, a parallel life that you were having here, struggling, building a relationship, and why would this be happening to me? And you say, okay, almost like it's the same thing that is happening here on the business front. So you started talking about the six love languages that our businesses need.
Yes.
For us to speak.
We have to speak to those businesses. And the 6 love languages, I'm going to give them quickly.
Go.
I'm not going to give everything.
No. So that we'll buy the book.
Of course.
When is the book going to be out?
That's a good question. We're gonna do a pre-release. You're gonna do a pre-release.
Okay. Yeah, so give us a glimpse.
So the 6 love languages are systems and operations, branding and marketing, sales and revenue, innovation, service and relationship, and freedom and lifestyle, right? So at any point in time, you could be speaking one of those languages to the business. I think systems and operations is like the underlying language, and then everything else sort of flows from that. But you got to speak the right language at different times. There are times where your business needs branding and marketing. There are times where you got to push out and really focus on visibility, right? There are times where you got to really knuckle down, double down, and figure out sales and revenue and how you're going to get those offers sold, those services out there, those things like that. And there are times where you actually need to go back and innovate and maybe tweak your services a little bit and look at what we actually really offering to our customers, and is it working, that kind of stuff. And then there are times where we got to look at the service. What type of service are we providing to our customers? What is the feedback we're getting from the people who are using our products, who are actually using our services, right? So always looking at the service, right? And then freedom and lifestyle is kind of, okay, is it giving me that freedom and that lifestyle that I'm looking for? So that's the framework that's been built. In a sense, your business needs all of it at one point in time, but the trick is being able to figure out which one you need to be speaking to at a particular time. If you focus only on branding and marketing, which we know businesses do, look very pretty on the outside, you get inside and it is a mess.
The systems and operations,
are in complete tatters. You have businesses that are making revenue, which is very much the case in Sierra Leone, very cash heavy businesses. So they're very much making revenue, but again, there's no operational functional behind it, because they're making the revenue, but the revenue is leaking as it's coming out, it's going in. As it's coming out, it's coming in. Sorry, it's going out. So it's understanding what the business needs at any particular time.
You did some additional work on the economy. We have what you call the double economy.
Yeah.
And you said maybe the informal economy. You did a research that actually broke it up into 4 tiers.
4 tiers, yes.
And you said the second tier. What are those 4 tiers? If you go very quickly into
So the 4 tiers are where you have the real low level, the real informal. So your market traders, they want to really sell in the streets.
That's the first tier.
That's tier 1. Tier 2 is where you have your high street shops. That's where you have really heavy retail businesses. So the boutiques, the pharmacy, them. Tier 3 is where you have your manufacturers. So, we have some factories around, SMEs, real proper SMEs. And then at tier 4, we actually have the institution. So the government is actually part of the economy, and because of how it also deals and functions with the economy.
And so tier 2 is what you're zeroing in on.
Yeah, we zero in on especially tier 2 and tier 3, because that's kind of where the focus is for us at the moment, or at least it's a place where I feel it's really underdeveloped, or we're trying to still understand why the shop in the, you understand? So you get the pharmacy, he's opened his pharmacy, but that's it. It doesn't go beyond that pharmacy, right? And then you go in, you find out he's not able to pay rent, he's having X and Y issues, he's running out of stock. All these things are happening. What is going on? And we have a lot of those businesses. Go Sanda Streets, go Cambo Streets, go Donda Streets. That's what you see. So we have a lot of tier 2 businesses that are not scaling and they're not growing. And
is that what you said? The 5.6 billion, you said the IMF released, did a study.
Yeah.
That's quantified. You had a terminology for that. You said the
economic activity, the economic output, and the activity of the Sierra Leone's informal economy. So IMF did a study on it, because I remember even when I saw the figure, I thought, are you sure?
5.6 billion US dollars.
US dollars. That's the worth of it. Also the economic output of it. Yeah. So that's how much economic activity goes on within the informality.
And so you're talking about tier 1 and tier 2, or just tier 2? You're not sure at this stage?
No, we're talking about tier 1, tier 2, and a little bit of tier 3. So why I say a little bit of tier 3 is because with tier 3 businesses, you will find that they're registered, they get an NRA, they get a TIN number, they get online TIN, but how they operate within their businesses is still informal. So for example, that car dealership, he was a tier 3 business, right? He had all those formalization things. However, he still operated informally. He still couldn't give you tax records at the end of the day, regardless of whether he was registered or not, because he hadn't been documenting his sales and revenue processes. So it's actually the fullness of the economy. So what I say is the economy is informal. It's not a side of it. It's 80% of our economy. It's 80% of employment in the country. The economy is informal. That's what it is. So we're not trying to change anything. We're not trying to fix anything. What we're saying is, first of all, recognize it for what it is. It's an informal economy. When you've recognized it for what it is, then you can really think about what can I then do with it? You've got to recognize it for what
and I know the government actually, been trying to grapple with this, and it actually even maybe doubled our GDP, the way we were measuring our GDP, to begin to recognize that there's a lot of what's going on
Yeah.
that's not recorded, and
Yeah.
so therefore we're understating, the economic activities there. And since then, you've been in country, you've worked with some businesses,
Yeah.
and you've came up with a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
frameworks
Yeah.
that you've developed. We're going to be talking about that, not just that.
Yeah.
You've talked about cash-heavy businesses,
Yeah.
no operational structure, no inventory management systems, and the chaos.
Yes.
It's chaos.
Yeah.
You also talked about the family tax.
Yes.
Let's talk about the family tax.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I think
Let's
we all
talk about the
have
family
that.
tax. Let's talk about the family tax.
So the family tax. So I always am a researcher by design. So I'm always looking at things from that point of view. And I kept asking, well, why are foreign businesses doing better, or why do they appear to be more stable and more just operationally, just functioning in the country? And one of the things that came out of that is the family tax, the black tax. We know there's a black tax. We know there's a family tax. You begin make money just now. You might buy one car. There's an uncle in the village eyeing you. He knows, we picking their free toy if I get a big business. You are the one that pays the medical bills. You're the one that pays the school fees. You are the one that pays for those things. And that is a tax that unfortunately means you cannot put your profits back into your business. So it's really people understanding sales and revenue and what revenue really means, right? What does profit mean? And knowing that actually if you eat the profits of your business, you've stolen from your business. You did thief na business. You yourself are stealing from the business because you've taken that profit that should go back into the business. But unfortunately, we do live in an environment where we have to help. It's not as straightforward. There's those.
How do you manage that? How do you deal with that? Because if that's inhibiting our growth, and it's not just cash of what I use actually released there, but even the stock.
Yes, stock. So family you get shocked, they will can't take.
Get this, get bread, get one bag rice,
get one bag rice, all in kinds of things. So of course that eats into your revenue, that eats into your sales, the revenue. So it's saying no. I know it's a tricky. I'm trying to be so careful how I answer this particular question.
She's just coming from the UK. What does she know about Sierra Leone?
Yeah, exactly.
What does she know?
I'm kind of thinking.
What does she know about Sierra Leone?
I'm very straightforward and really straight to the point. Yeah, but I'm learning how to be a little bit,
anyway,
less edgy.
You can say it's a family tax, and it's costing the business.
It is costing.
And so you could put it that way. You can't run into trouble saying that. And how they manage it is something that we can deal with.
But it's one of the questions we ask when we do our initial checks with businesses. We actually do ask that question as part of the diagnostic, that actually does your family member come and take products from you? And if they do, is it something you record? Is it something that they actually pay you back for? So we have found a way to include it into. And then when you
tell founders that their generosity is bleeding the business, how do they react?
They understand it. They definitely understand it because they care about their businesses. They want them businesses then grow. You understand? When a founder knows, even okay, we get one mommy we do in health check now normally, right? It is sell fabric them, yeah. I'll call her Madam Z, Madam Adama. Let's call her Madam Adama, right? Typical Madam Adama. It get fabric then. She probably has maybe 600 pieces of fabric, which is, she doesn't even understand it's collateral, right? Why? It say one go in business. Now say what you want to do. It say one for able for go for Guinea for himself to go and do her own essentially her own sourcing, which is cheaper for her because then, it makes more sense. How much do you need? She needs 60,000 leones. And I was like, what's stopping you? I don't know how to go to bank. She doesn't know how to deal with the banks. What record, because she has no records of whatever. But by the time I sat with her and I spoke to her and I said, okay, how much do you sell one fabric? You sell one fabric, maybe 250, 200, right? I said, so do you write it down? And she said, oh no, it didn't have me in. That's a classic one. It's in my head. And I was like, okay. And I said, okay, but say if you dey write and down, you dey record, that book you can go to bank for go show they say. I say yes. So it's coming to that level where you understand, because I can't tell her about your business model needs to change and you need to apply business model. That's the wrong language to her. The right language at that moment was really asking her, you dey make money? Yes. You dey record the money? No. So that means say you dey leak the business. Do you understand? Do you have an inventory of the 600 pieces of a material that's sitting in your shop? You understand that that's actually collateral when you cost it down, because you don't spend money for buy them pieces then they. So wait till it cost you for buy them. Waiting at the profit where they make pantap. how you dey pull money from the business? So they tell me, say, oh, then go just scan the beginning and go and take, 100 million or 50 million. And I say, okay, so why at the end of the month or at the end of the day, they pay you safe. If now 1,000, 2,000 safe, that money they not for you safe. So it's doing the work.
Are you actually using the banking system?
They're not.
Like I would sell at the end of the day, move the money to the bank so it's not closed where.
So I don't rush them to the banking system.
What do you do?
I straighten them out first. You get her to understand her books first. You get her to understand what is income, what is an expense before you move her to the banking system.
And you have two big tools that you developed.
Yeah.
AISA,
yes,
ISA, is it?
Yes,
ISA and SFIW.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that quickly. Adaptive Informal Systems Architecture.
Yes, so ISA is our in-house methodology which I developed, which essentially what the methodology is saying is that informal economies don't need to be broken, they just need to be structured. Why? Because they are systems within themselves that are just undocumented. So that's where. So
they already have systems by themselves. It's just that they're not documented. And so when you go in, what you do is do the documentation.
Yeah, we begin. That's how we start. You got to look at what is happening already. So again, like with Madam Adam and like the lady with the Lumley, we looked at what was already happening in her business. She already had stock. She already had collateral, right? She already had the things already. She was already buying and selling. She already figured out her supply chain. She knows exactly how her supply chain works, and she wanted to actually be able to break into the supply chain so that she wasn't dealing with a third party, but she could go straight to Guinea. So the system was there, but it's not documented in how me and you might speak about it or teach it, right? In supply chain management, and that. What should we really do in supply chain?
So what does ISA do? So what does ISA? Which tool did you use? Is it
ISA is the methodology.
Okay.
Systems for Informal Wealth is then the tool. So that's the actual diagnostic tool essentially, and it stands on the premises of simplify, systemize, and sustain. Right? So you got to simplify it. You got to break it down for them. You got to figure out how you then systemize that. You give her a basic notebook. You just start her off with basic bookkeeping. Write down what you make. Write down what you spend. At the end of the day, we get to cost and profit. And she begins to understand her numbers. And then she realizes, oh, my business is going with 10,000 for the week. 10,000 yen for the week, you have a business. So what does it then bring you for the month? What are the expenses? A lot of business owners can't tell you what their expenses are, right? You've got to know what your operating expenses are. So you write that down. So we start them off. It's simple tools. It's such a simple tool. And also what we have to remember, a lot of our business owners already have a smartphone in their hand. So now you then think, what could you do with the phone if she really understood the power of the phone that was of the device that was in her hand? But you got to give her the basics. So simplify it for her. Give her a basic book so she understands bookkeeping and record keeping. You understand? And the discipline behind that before you ever put her on an app, on an Excel sheet, or even take her to the bank.
One of the things, in my other life, there's my managing director life of, running Sierra. But in my other life, people know I'm an entrepreneur and I've been building businesses, and we have tools at the Startup Body Shop. One of them is we call Collat Book.
Yes, okay.
Collat Books.
Yeah.
Peace of mind. You're talking about peace of mind.
Peace of mind.
But it's Collat Books. But actually, like you're saying, simplify. First stage.
Yeah.
If you could get them to write down everything I bought. This is what I bought for the day. This is what I sold for the day. This is my expenditures.
Yes.
This is how much I spent. This is what I spent it for. Yeah. If you could get that, take a photo and send it. There's an accountant at the back office. That captures that every day. Once you take a photo at the end of the day, take a photo, send it's keyed in instantly, ultimately, and then with AI there are tools you could just run. Even with the AI, just upload the photo and say post, and it just posts. It turns it into an accounting at the back end, so that at the end of the week we could give you a report. At the end of the month we could actually say this is what. So that's the kind of approach, and the Startup Body Shop is in with Collat Books. So ISA. SFIW, and you're talking about health check scorecard written in Creole.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
The health check. So essentially, we've been careful to really figure out what's not the language, what was the right language to speak to the traders. And again, it's doing this work that we figured out the different tiers within the economy. I'll go back to the record keeping. So for that level of record keeping, down there now for the while we did not normally with it sell. But then when you move up the ladder, you realize the tier 2 and tier 3, they already have the record.
They have the the book.
They
Yeah.
have a level of record keeping already. So
Yes.
then, okay, that just needs to be cleaned up and then systemized properly. So again, the system works at whichever tier you want to sort of apply it at. Yeah. So I just wanted to sort of lock that in, that it is a tier, sort of something that can be applied at every level. So
It's just the tools.
Yeah.
Collapse book and how it works for people at this level.
Yeah.
And you're talking about
Yeah,
how can you apply for people who already have the books, have the
the books,
records. What do
yeah.
you do? So what do you do? What tools, what
So
intervention
with
do you do at
those
that
ones,
level?
that's where you then put the structure in. So we have something called structure before you scale, or sort of the layer. There's a thin layer before tech comes in, right? So with those businesses, you really get them to understand what those books are saying before you add the tech element on top of it. Yeah.
You have an ebook.
Yes.
And it was targeting the diaspora community.
Yes.
You have an event coming at the end of the year.
Yes.
And
we
maybe
do.
it's too early to talk about that.
It's never too early to talk about it.
So your first book, let's talk about this. So you did some work with diaspora, and
did some
it's
work.
understandable because
Yes.
and you have an ebook
Yes.
that is already on your website.
Yes.
Is it for
Available.
free? Is it
It's
available?
not, we do have
How
something
much
that
do you
is for
pay?
free. We have something that is for free, which is the 6 things you need to know about actually doing business in Sierra Leone. That's also available. And we
The
have
6
ebook
things you need to know
about doing business
in Sierra Leone. We'll put it up for them on the screen. We'll put it up for the screen. Yeah, put it up on the screen for them.
And then the ebook came about because as I was doing the field work and we were going out and doing this, just reaching out to businesses, we found that 30 to 40% of our businesses are diasporan owned. So either the person or they are either abroad, but he gets shop now. And so that means so he's still a Sierra Leonean in that sense, which we realize that's part of the Sierra Leone business ecosystem or the Sierra Leone business community as well. And so diasporas have essentially, if you want to say maybe the resources or maybe a bit more access to the capital, who come and do businesses here, but we found that their businesses were equally struggling because of those same very issues around operational system support and just how the hell do you do business in Sierra Leone with all the nuances and the different things that are going on. And so I knew that, okay, I'm from the diaspora. I've seen my mom try to start businesses in Sierra Leone. When it's that cement shop, we not see it.
The cement shop where? Who's party cement shop? Why is it?
It's supposed to be Lunge, but I don't know.
A cement shop in Lunge.
You understand? But because again, it just is send money, operational issues, trust, who we actually decide to trust as well back home, family and friends. And it doesn't always work out. We have plenty of stories. We know that, you just got to call 1 or 2 people and you're going to hear a story. I don't send this money and this. So I realized, okay, diasporans also don't know how to do business in Sierra Leone. So that was the ebook is really targeted as how to really start, run and grow your business in Sierra Leone, especially if you are abroad. What are the things you need to be thinking about to make sure your business is functioning here on the ground?
What's the event you're having in at the end of the year? You plan to have at the end of the year?
Yes, the event we're having at the end of the year. I'm really excited about it, actually. It's called the Capital and the Business Lab. Exactly. So it's
Capital and Business Lab.
Capital and Business Lab. And it's really focusing on how to do business in Sierra Leone, right? So throughout the year, we hear about all the wonderful investment opportunities that are available in the country. We know, say, opportunities in day, but how do you actually maximize and make the most of those opportunities? So whether you're a local founder, whether you're a diasporan investor trying, coming in, we get business now, yeah. How do you actually do business in this country and make your capital work for you and make the money that, you're investing?
That's what it's going to be about. Who would you be inviting to participate there?
We've got I don't know if I can announce.
You don't have to. You don't have to. No, you don't have to. It's you don't
will be there.
You don't have to. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you talked about replication economy.
Yes.
Tell us about that. What's the replication economy?
The replication economy we see every day in our markets, in our streets. Just take a walk, like I always say, take a walk one day down Sanda Street, any of the markets or any of the markets, and just really pay attention to the shops and what our shops sell, right? And you find out that 6 out of 10 shops sell the same thing, provision. Sachet milk, water, gari, like it's the same thing. And so I started realizing this is what you call the replication economy. So it's easy to actually start a business in Sierra Leone.
Just look at what somebody is doing
and just go for it. Yeah?
You see like they're making money and just say
go for
replicate.
It. Yeah, if you begin go China, me back. I get for Fenway, or I'll find a way to start buying those kind of goods to sell, right? So essentially it's the same business, but we're splitting it across 17.
What's wrong with that?
Because it's not growth. You don't grow that way. And ultimately, we have to remember a business is designed to solve problems. That's what businesses are for. They solve problems. They offer solutions. So your business has to offer a solution beyond the survival of just, I got to survive. So it doesn't grow anything. We always sell the same thing.
The sachet and stuff, but they solve a problem. What problem do they solve? Don't they solve a problem?
They solve a problem, but it becomes saturated. It's saturated. Do you understand? And if you think about it, the customer we tend to be creatures of habits. The same kiosk where they go by, most of the time, I go there. That night they go by. You understand? Something will have to happen for me to look across the road to go to the other kiosk. Because we're creatures of habits. Also, they drop now old school. The kiosk where I woke up every time and I buy from there. I don't change my route. Like it's part of my daily route and routine, right? But you have one over there, you have one over there. Like, it's the same thing. So we gotta switch.
Say something again about a business got to solve problems.
A business has to solve problems. Businesses are designed. That is what they are created for, right? So if you're in the food business, you're solving a hunger problem for people. When I was doing my soap business, one of the reasons I really continued with my soap business is because I believed I was solving the hygiene problems of the world. Because people got a bath. But I knew it was about hygiene, right? And hygiene is important. And hygiene is important to God. So it's got to solve a problem. What is the problem that you're solving? Yeah, what is the solution that you are able to offer? And that is what gives you things. That's where things like competitive advantage comes in, and USP and all those other lovely words that we hear and that we love to use. But ultimately, at the core of it and the heart of it, what is the problem that you're solving?
You say capital is easy, business health is hard.
Yes, it's difficult because capital day, money day.
And people would argue with you, Mahawa, you don't know what you're talking about, because there are people out there who would, and this is something, obviously,
Yes.
if you've been watching the show, this is something we talk about regularly. Money day, capital easy. What's the problem?
Structure.
Explain.
You got to structure. So we have our founding principle is structure before you scale. That's actually like my founding principle. And I realized you got to structure things before you scale. Why? Growth is an enhancer. All growth does is shows us the mess that's going on in your business. We have it there's so many businesses, please, that you have seen over time. The minute they grow is the minute the issues come in. There's a business called WeWork. Look it up. If you're an entrepreneur, read up the WeWork story, right? This is a business that got like billions, right? And the moment that it grew,
It was a shared workspace.
Yeah, the shared workspace, but WeWork got their concept wrong, because WeWork thought they were a tech company, and actually WeWork was a real estate company. At the core of it. So they didn't understand the problem that they were solving, which is entrepreneurs and businesses needed spaces, real estate spaces, to be able to pop up in, so that they didn't have to pay high market rate in terms of offices and things like that, which made it flexible for me to be able to operate my business. I could operate remotely, but then I had a space where I could pop in, hold meetings, work, and things like that. That's a real estate problem that you're solving for businesses, not a tech problem. And so if a business at that level couldn't understand, I knew that was what it was, right? So there's so many case studies out there that you can look into. So growth is an enhancer. Growth shows what is really going on, what the messes are really in your businesses. So you want to make sure you clean up those messes and you fix those messes before you really decide you want to go.
So maybe growth amplifies. Growth is an amplifier.
Money is an amplifier. Money is just an amplifier. If you're a bad person, you're a bad person.
The money just amplifies. So you talked about your 10-year vision. We started talking about, somewhere along the line, we talked about this being a spiritual journey. And you think it's a calling that you have. And you say you have a 10-year vision.
Yes.
You said that last year, 2025, January 2025.
Yes.
And it says it's 2035.
2035, yes.
And that business is, what's the calling? What's the vision for this?
That's a good question. Yeah, so there's a few things wrapped in the vision, but ultimately it goes back to the thing of really changing the way we do business in Africa. And I guess Sierra Leone it's my home country, so why not give that privilege to my home country and test out these things in the market here. So it's really having a Sierra Leone for me that I see where businesses are functional, a healthy economy is so important, and healthy businesses make up healthy economies. So it's really having a Sierra Leone where our businesses are functional. It's having a Sierra Leone where we build businesses in Sierra Leone that we scale within the continent, that we are able to scale globally. It's having an environment where that is an enabling environment, and we have to remember businesses are what create jobs. So I'm very big on private sector development, and I believe the private sector is such a critical part to the future of the economic development of the country. With a weak private sector, you are in trouble. But with a strong private sector, you're able to create jobs, you're able to create better economic output, you're really able to really have a country that can deliver things. What do I mean? The government has contracts, but you have a weak private sector that cannot deliver that contract. You need to bring in the foreign individuals. With a strong private sector, you cut all of that out because you give the first priority, because you know I have good engineers, good firms, good consulting firms within my private sector that can actually deliver these contracts, right? So it already cuts half of your problems away because foreign companies charge more. We know that. You understand? So you need a healthy private sector. A healthy private sector create jobs for the 500 graduates that are coming out of a college every year. What are you going to do with them? Where do they end up?
There are thousands of graduates,
right? Yeah. Well, I think someone said about 500 last year.
No,
it was
it's
more
thousands.
than that, right? And I remember, but what went through my mind was I'm worried for our graduates. There are no graduate scheme programs. Our banking and finance students are coming out and they don't know what a balance sheet is because there are no proper banking graduate programs to teach them how to be bankers, to be able to run the finance of the country or the finance of the private sector. So it is imperative. It is a call to action that we get our private sector together and really develop it and really focus on not an ecosystem, but a business environment that can actually sustain itself, yeah. And until we start, we're having the conversation, thank God already, but until we really start realizing what that environment is, and that's why you say you got to diagnose it properly. It's informal. So we've diagnosed it. So now how do we take this private sector, this huge chunk of our market, and really turn it into the operating machine that we need it to become, so we can turn the economic future, whatever it is, of our country?
Who should work on it? Is it the government or is the private sector getting their act together? Like you're now saying, just the thing you're saying, Mama, Adama, and Evit. It's from both. It's both
because government has to provide the enabling environment. So that's why we are very big on breaking down things like the Finance Act and what those things actually mean. For businesses, what are the things you can actually really leverage on within the act and within policy? So it's making sure that yes, policy is there, but policy is implemented, right? And policy works. The policy's got to work. If you're going to give me subsidies because I've gone solar, give me the subsidies because I've gone solar. So the policies also have to work at the point of it. And then also with our private sectors, Madam Adama, the first thing is the mindset shift. We got to shift the mind. Businesses are not here for survival. Business is not so because you don't go to school now that make you go end up on business. We got to get rid of all of those mindsets, right? Business are tools for economic activities. They help. You need them within your environment. You need them within your private sector. So get rid of all those things. Why? Because Alexa, if I don't go to school, and they go hire the one we go to school for can run me business for me. So my dear, having the education is one thing. It's what you choose to do with the education. That's a whole different thing. So it's both coming together. It's having the right conversations as well. There's a lot of things that we're pushing and stuff. I had something that happened to me that opened my eyes yesterday around digital access, right? Mm-hmm. And we realize we've given people digital access, but we haven't given them the way to commercialize that access. What do I mean? I had an encounter with Ipikin. I go by Granat. But what struck me was she had a phone in her hand and she was on Facebook. And so that means that she has a level of digital literacy already because she knows how to use Facebook, TikTok, WhatsApp, right? But it is still granatas now 1 a.m. So yes, she has digital access, but she has not been able to have the economic benefit of having that access. So she doesn't know how to commercialize what she's doing. So it's still therefore go spend 6 hours selling peanuts in the hot sun. So how do you move it from access to the tool I've given you in your hand is actually something that is an economic tool that can lift you out of where you are. Because now all I need to do is take my orders online. All I need to do is track my inventory on my phone. Teach them what to do with the things that they've got and not just give them the access to it.
You do a weekly, we're rounding up now.
Yeah.
You do some weekly publications. Tell us about that. What's
so
that?
We do a weekly publication. It's called Freetown Business Briefings. It's the only place you need to come. We're on Substack, so it's connoisseurconsult.substack.com, and it's Freetown Business Briefings, and essentially it's a weekly digest.
We'll put the link. We'll drop the link before you in the comments. Yeah. So go on.
Yeah, so it's a weekly digest of what is happening in the business environment. It's also looking at what some of the stories mean, right? So when the EU comes out and makes the story about the 325 million euros, what does that mean for you as a business owner? What does that mean, within the business environment when fuel prices went up to 35 Leones? What does that mean for you as a business owner and how you now structure and maneuver your business? Because if you were keeping records in your business, it wouldn't have hit you so hard, right? So it's breaking down those real things that happen. The Minimum Wage Act, what does that really mean? Do I really need to take that seriously? Is that something that's going to affect me? So it's breaking down.
We couldn't even stop this discussion. There's also something you said about the it's not policy, it's your pocket about again with the fuel.
Yeah.
When the adjustments
Yes,
are made like that. The 5 taxes. What do you say? Is it the 5 tax that you have? Rent. It says it's determined by rent. There was an article that I saw.
We did the first article we did when we had the 35 Leones increase that went up, and then all of a sudden diesel went up to 40 Leones, right? So all of a sudden people's businesses and your operational costs immediately changed. It immediately changed because if you were lighting generator, you already know what that meant in terms of diesel prices. We were sending staff out to do health checks, right? That immediately affected us because Usaina 10 Leones ago, all of a sudden it became 12 Leones. It became 15 Leones, right? So our cost went up. So immediately your operating cost shoots up. And so if you're not tracking that and you don't have a gauge on top of that, your business will crumble.
Where do we find Mahawa Kamara?
That's a good question. I am online. Firstly, you can find us everything we do in terms of Connoisseur Consult. You can find us at connoisseurconsult.com. We're also on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. I am specifically on LinkedIn. That's my main page where you can find me, Mahawa Kamara. I'm also on Instagram. I am on TikTok, actually, and I'm on Facebook as well. So you can always connect with me on any one of my channels.
It's been a pleasant evening talking to you. It's been a pleasant evening talking to you. What Mahawa has been saying is so important. And if you've been watching and been following what we do in the show, that is why, even at the Startup Body Shop, you don't have to guess. We say constantly, you don't have to guess your way into building a business. There are constraints. At any point in time, there are things that hold in your business from growing. And what you need to do at any point in time, maybe one of them is the most acute. Mahawa talks about the 6 love languages. We talk about the 5 growth levers in the scaling blueprint. At any point in time, one of these levers is holding your business from growing, and you need to just zero in on which of these is the biggest culprit at the moment. If you spend 90 days just working on that specific lever, you could deconstrain your business and build private sector. I usually look forward to pushing for that discussion where you could build private sector that is also solid. You go to a lot of countries, the governments would only work with locals. Yeah. They would give contracts to the local companies. We have to build that capacity to get to the point where that becomes a reality. And I think it's moving, two-way from the government end and also from our private sector, doing this kind of things that Mahawa has been talking about. That's what builds our capacity. The other day, you got the news that a Sierra Leonean company was now awarded a contract in Liberia for the first time, ever that you have that story. Those are the kind of stories we want to be able to build and grow and fire up in our country. So check Connoisseur Consult, check Mahawa, but you can also take your free business diagnostics and find out, Startup Body Shop, www.startupbodyshop.com. Look for the diagnostic tool, fill it today, and find out what is holding your business from growing. I'd like to wrap up with saying thanks to our sponsors, AfriCell, AfriMoney, RC Bank, Sierra Tel, and the Startup Body Shop. They are driving, making it possible for us to be on air. I'd like to close with the only belief that matters. If you think you can, because your behavior would follow your belief. If you think you can't, you won't, because your behavior would follow your beliefs. This is life by design. It's a life you can shape. It's a life you can design. Till we meet next, keep shaping and keep designing your life and designing your business. God bless.
This is the JB Show, and it's your life by design.